Off the far northern tip of Scotland, where the Atlantic Ocean and the North Sea meet, lie the Orkney Islands, as inhospitable as they are remote. Yet despite this, people have lived on these islands since the dawn of time, and they left behind some of the best examples of Stone Age construction found anywhere in the world. Wandering hunter-gatherers settled here 6,000 years ago. They cultivated the land and became farmers. We know little of their day-to-day lives, but clues to their world can be found in ruins that still remain today. There are stone circles that measure the changing cycles of the solar year, tombs designed to bring the living into direct contact with the world of the dead. The people who built these structures we now call pagans. What they called themselves, we may never know. All that we do know for sure is that their beliefs drove the pagans of Orkney to extraordinary feats of construction long before the great buildings of Greece and Rome were erected. What these ancient pagan monuments looked like in their heyday has long been a riddle. For centuries, all trace of these people was lost or hidden. Then, in the winter of 1850, a freak storm hit the Orkney coastline. In a place called Skara Brae, the wind and high seas stripped the grass from a mound by the seashore, and when the storm had passed, the local people found ruins emerging from the sand. They were the remains of a Neolithic or Stone Age pagan village. For Erica Goodman, an archaeologist, Skara Brae is more than a ruin. It's a gateway to a lost world.
It's absolutely astounding because archaeologists are used to dealing with really ephemeral remains from the past. So we're scrabbling around after very faint traces of archaeology. And here we've got this whole village, not just the individual standing structures, but a whole Neolithic village.
Tests have dated this settlement as being around 5,000 years old, making it hundreds of years older than the Egyptian pyramids. Most Neolithic homes were made of wood and have long since rotted away. But the Orkney Islands are almost entirely treeless. Out of necessity, these houses were built from stone.
What I'm standing on is the Orkney flagstones, and this is a sedimentary rock. So it means it was all laid down in thin layers. This was all created underwater. And what that means is that it cracks into these nice little building blocks. So all around them they have this natural building material, and it makes sense that they would have used this rather than use up their precious firewood.
The village is made up of 10 circular houses. The walls are built of natural beach stones held together without mortar.
The dry stone walling technique is really effective, and you can see that it's quite solid because the building's still here after 5,000 years, and you can't say that about most of the buildings that we're putting up today.
All the homes of Skara Brae are built to the same basic design. The focal point of this house was the hearth, or fire. Built into the far wall is what archaeologists assume was storage space, while on each side wall are structures believed to have once housed beds. Archaeologists don't know for certain how many people lived in this house at any one time, but believe that it was home to a large, extended family, living in close, rather cramped conditions by modern standards. This was clearly a close-knit community, and the buildings bound the people together. The houses were actually linked by low, narrow passageways covered with stone. It was possible to move from one to another without ever setting foot outside. Historian Ronald Hutton stoops low to enter the village and discover why its inhabitants built this way.
There are two really good reasons for having long, narrow, low passages like this approaching Neolithic houses. One is that if you're a guest, it impresses on you you're approaching somebody else's personal space. Alternatively, if you're an attacker, it's pretty forbidding to have to crawl down here with your head stuck out, knowing there are people waiting to behead you or club you at the other end.
The most extraordinary thing about these buildings is their location. On first inspection, they appear to have been dug into the ground, but this isn't the case. In fact, the entire village was made by burrowing into what's called a midden heap, a mound of garbage left by previous settlers.
Midden is basically prehistoric garbage, and that includes all the waste from the hearth, the ash and charcoal, and all the kitchen waste. And what's important to remember is that they divided up the garbage, so all the muckier stuff is out on the edge of town. That's where they've got the animal dung and human poo and everything. And then here in the middle of the town, they've got the cleaner sorts of material.
This extreme form of recycling had huge practical benefits.
The reason they used midden material to build their structures is it has good insulation properties, and it also, they mix it with clay, so it helps the structural integrity. It helps hold the building together.
These buildings are so well preserved that they offer clues to how the pagans of Orkney originally put them together.
But we can see that the wall is coming in like this. They're building it up more and more narrowly. So it might have come to a sort of dome shape on top, but we think it's more likely that there were timber roof struts perhaps, or maybe whalebone, and then they would have had a turf roof perhaps.
We can now reveal what the houses of these mysterious pagans looked like when they were built 5,000 years ago. Each follows the same basic design. One room of around 400 square feet. That's around half the size of an average modern New York apartment. A stone dresser lies opposite the doorway with a bed either side and a large fireplace at the center of the room. The walls rise inwards to meet roofing joists covered with turf. Built into a midden heap and connected by covered passageways from the outside, the village would have appeared as a low mound, broken only by the turf-covered roofs of the houses. The pagans who lived in these houses almost certainly helped build one of the greatest and most baffling prehistoric monuments of Orkney, the Ring of Brodgar. An enormous stone circle 7 miles south of Skara Brae, Brodgar belongs to a special class of stone circles known as henges, a ring of stones enclosed within a ditch and earth bank. This is one of the largest henges in the world.
To me, the obvious use of a great open space like this is you can put lots of people in it and they can see what's going on. So almost certainly it was a centre where lots and lots of people met up at certain times of the year, the great seasonal festivals, in order to exchange ideas, celebrate religious rituals, trade things, have dating services with each other so they could find married partners and mates, and generally get together to do all the things that large numbers of people need to do.
But how these ancient people managed to build something as large as the Ring of Brodgar without modern tools or lifting equipment is astounding. Just to dig the ditch surrounding it meant excavating 11,000 tons of rock, enough to fill 2 Olympic-sized swimming pools. Such a construction project must have involved every able-bodied islander over a long period of time. But even more perplexing is why they built it and what this circle represented.
The fact that this is a circle of stones is incredibly significant because around about 5,000 years ago, the people of the British Isles became fascinated by round shapes. Possibly it's simply that by then they could see the horizon, because the horizon is a natural circle if you look around, and these monuments could be matching the horizon, mirroring the land around.
The Ring of Brodgar may have been built as a model of the Orkney landscape. The stones were brought from sites all over the island, and it's possible that each small community erected their own stone to represent their village. Today, only 27 remain, but experts believe it once looked like this. 60 large standing stones were surrounded by a deep ditch. Beyond the ditch rose a 10-foot-high earthen bank that enclosed the whole site. The Ring of Brodgar would have sent a powerful message down through the generations that this land belonged forever to the builders and their descendants. And evidence suggests the pagans of Orkney had a very close connection to their dead. The tombs they built were entranceways to a forgotten underworld.